Karnami, also known as Ba Manik, an environmental activist, former radio jockey, motivational speaker and social media influencer. Talking to him is Roshni Suba. This was produced by Lucy Mary Malnyam, assisted by Natalie F. Nongrum.
Hello, dear listeners. From the studio of Akashvani Northeastern Services, we bring to you Know Your Environment. In our studio today, we have Shri Nicholas J. Karnami. I welcome you, sir, to the program.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It's a pleasure.
And I'm your host, Roshni Subba. A brief profile of our guest, Nicholas J. Karnami, also known as Bamanik and as Nick J., is a graduate in mass communication and journalism. He is a school teacher, eco-activist, social media influencer, television anchor, master of ceremonies, and a former radio jockey. Nicholas, for the last 16 years, has been involved in raising awareness on various environmental issues in the state of Meghalaya. Known as the proponent of Kapla Ew, My Shillong, My Pride, and My Meghalaya, My Pride campaign. As a former radio jockey of 91.1 FM Radio Ulala and 91.1 FM Radio Mishi, he has received huge support and appreciations for his initiatives to raise awareness on social and environmental issues. Driven by passion towards the cause, he founded the Partners of Playu Club in 2010 and began his quest to inform, educate and communicate about environmental issues and organizing various on-ground activities. As a TV anchor, he has been hosted various programs. Currently, he is the host of an environmental program, Green Ecos, on Doordarshan Meghalaya. He has also been involved as a resource person for a total sanitation campaign, PH department, National Rural Health Mission, Government of Meghalaya, Mission Green, Government of Meghalaya, Save Wa Kra campaign, and invited as a motivational speaker in various schools and colleges. He has also received various awards in recognition of his contribution. As a social media influencer, apart from entertainment, he is contributing towards raising awareness and social environmental issues. Recently, your love story featured in the web series Love Storia, produced by Karan Johar. So, sir, let's start our journey of questions from entertainment to education.
It will be wonderful to have a chit-chat with you, but you can call me Banik. That should be okay. Yeah.
Okay. So, Banik, tell us about your background and what inspired you to be an environmentalist.
I would say I was not born an eco-activist. One would say that now I am what I am because of what I do, but I would say as a boy, when I grew up, I was conscious about nature as such because we live in the surrounding which is so beautiful around the Shillong Golf Course area. Well, it was only when I was in my 10th standard that it actually got ingrained in me when I used to witness my grandmother doing something which was very moving at that point of time. She would actually be collecting these single-use plastics which are being dumped by the roadside. And so one fine day when I happened to stop her and ask her why was she doing it, well, she told me that this is going to be the biggest threat to the environment. That point of time, probably I also did not understand what she actually meant with it. But in the course of time, when I happened to see her habit or her contribution in her humble way of collecting those single-use plastics and recycling them. That's when eventually, when this whole alarm of the hazard of using single-use plastic started becoming an issue that's been raised by various organizations and became a threat to the environment on a larger scale, that's when I realized that, well, that was something that was already told to me by my late grandmother, late Swar Karnu. You know, she was a dry fish seller at Yodo. It seemed she had manifested the very fact that as being somebody who was elder, someone who was experienced, could actually see the trend, the way our behavioral change has come towards consumptions, towards our connect with nature and everything else. Perhaps the alarm was already ringing at that point of time through her message. But it's only when I got an opportunity myself to begin with my radio program, that's when I realized the fact that I should take up radio as a medium to be able to spread that much needed awareness. And that's how it all actually began with the program called Kaplayo. After that, there was no stopping, because I realized that along with the power of radio as a medium to communicate, there was also a larger responsibility that I had towards not just talk, but to be able to walk the talk. And that's when the whole on-ground activities came along till now. It's something that I have been passionately driving to raise this awareness. So far, all I'm going to say is it has been a difficult journey altogether.
Moving forward, I would also like to then ask you about the much known campaign of yours, My Shillong, My Pride, if you can highlight.
All right, so as a radio program, I was given the liberty to choose what I wanted to do. So apart from the entertainment shows that I had, I was very particular about telling my boss that at that point of time, that was Radio Ulala, that was 91.9, did tell him that I want to do a special program on environment. It is not going to be the old school way of just giving awareness on environment, but it will be something where I will be bringing up this character called Bamanik, who was a comical guy and who was more like a rural person, a phenomena of his own, and then how he will be going about sharing the much needed awareness. They liked the idea. In the beginning, it was just a comical environmental awareness program that we designed, and I was one of the characters that I was playing in it. But as the program went on, and as we received so much of appreciation for the program, the response that we got, at the end of the day, I realized that this is not going to be easy. Why? Because it is much easy to preach about saving the environment and to talk whole about the environment, but not do anything in reality on ground. So that's when Kaplayo became like a movement. The listeners came out in good numbers when we started off the first campaign of having a Say No to Plastic March. It was such a moving experience to see that listeners who were just listening to me on radio actually came out in huge numbers to be part of the anti-plastic rally that we had. And then that actually just gave me so much motivation that I realized that it was much more than just radio and just the program. So eventually it went on to begin with the on-ground activities, but that was with Ulala. That continued till 2009, and after Ulala had shut down, that was that. I registered Playo as an organization, and I began my groundwork as an eco-activist. By God's grace, it seems like he wanted me to do more on it. And that's when in 2016, Radio Mirchi came along. And then again, I got an opportunity from the management that you do what you love most, and that's the environment, so you can have your own program. I changed the format a little bit in the program. This time around, it was no more Bamanik, but it was Nikki J. The whole intention was to bring in the element of love for Shillong. So the idea was to have a format where I will be quizzing people about Shillong, but also in the meantime, doing what is spreading the much needed awareness about environmental issues pertaining to the city, Shillong. And again, at the same time, the kind of response that we got for that show, My Shillong, My Pride, again, I felt that this is the time yet again, not to just talk, but to get on ground and to go and really prove that this is My Shillong and My Pride and do something about it. And that's when the on-ground campaigns began again, with the cleanup drives, with so many awareness-led activities that I've been doing in different locations across the city. And that's how My Shillong, My Pride became into, I would call it as a movement, because people actually felt that connect and that sense of belonging and their sense of responsibility towards not only to the show, but also to this concept of My Meghalaya being my pride. And so that's how it rolled on. I realized the very fact that, My Shillong, My Pride, the connect of it was just around Shillong. So I thought, as a citizen of the state of Meghalaya, why not take this movement to a larger scale altogether? Why not raise this for the cause of the state of Meghalaya as a whole? And that's when, from the My Shillong, My Pride campaign, it became the My Meghalaya, My Pride campaign, which is still on till date.
So what strategy do you follow to spread awareness about cleanliness?
So apart from what I did on radio, of course, through my radio show, where I felt humor was the best element to go about and spread the much needed awareness, and apart from all the serious talks, having resource persons and chit chats, the other format that I was keen on doing is basically doing the silent protest. So whenever I took up campaigns, I used to come up with a silent protest of mine, and symbolic of it is this question mark that I will always uphold as a placard. If there was a location I was assigned or I assigned myself to take up because of the indiscriminate dumping of waste that was going on there, I wouldn't go about screaming and shouting and doing anything at all. I would simply stand in that location with a question mark for days and days and days. The whole idea was to be able to connect with all those passerbys who watched me every single day, like starting from day 1 to day 2, 3, 4, 5. So there have been locations where I've stood there for almost 27 days. There are locations where I stood for 14 days, 15 days at a stretch. So it kind of hit the psyche of the people. What I love most about this whole strategy of mine, if I may put it that way, is that the people connect was there. People stopped by to ask, what's wrong? What's happening? That, I am sure, has been able to create a larger impact than much being said about it. I felt that's so connect that till date, this is the technique or strategy, if you may put it, that I'm still taking it up.
So in carrying out the movement with such a noble thought, what difficulties do you face, or how difficult it is to convince people about the best practices to preserve the environment?
If you go to the kitchen and if your kitchen is filled with waste, how difficult it is for you to stand there with the order. It is difficult, isn't it?
It is difficult.
Imagine with the huge dump of waste just next to you and you're standing there for 7 days, 8 days, 9 days, 14 days, 20 days altogether. How do you think that would feel? It's going to be very difficult, isn't it? So talking about difficulty of the campaign, I made it personally difficult for me because that was the only motivation I had. And people passing by would either close their nose or would shut their mouths or would just walk away. And that reaction of the people is something that I was kind of a motivation for me. Because for them also it was becoming a little difficult to understand what's going on here. Indeed, it was very difficult, and it is still very difficult. But by the grace of God, what has happened is this campaign has also been able to garner that attention which was needed. And so the cleanups happened, which was again a sigh of relief at the end of the day, and much needed transformation that I was looking forward to from one location to the other. Now some odd 20 plus locations around the city and all, and outside the city as well. Talking about the aspect of behavioral change that we're talking about, I would say that it has definitely impacted a lot of people to think. And that would be the achievement I would say that has happened. I don't know if that has actually transformed them, because behavioral change in anyone cannot come overnight or just over an incident or seeing someone do a stunt, or rather see someone take up activism in that format. But what I do understand is that in a car where there's a father, a mother and a child, I'm sure there is a discussion that has happened. In a bus where there is a bus full of students, as they saw me, they must have discussed what's wrong with this person, why he is doing this. People who are passing by, who are looking at me, honking at me, they themselves must be pondering upon this fact that this is not right. Or am I part of it? Have I been doing it? So I'm sure that must have triggered some sort of a thinking or a thought process or introspection in them. And I'm sure that must have been the change that I anticipate.
What role do you think local committees can play to protect the environment?
Very important. This is a collaborative initiative. It is not something that a one-man army can do. The one-man army that a lot of people call me is only to be able to show it can be done and to push it to get it done. But at the end of the day, it's a collaborative initiative, be it of the Urban Affairs, the Shillong Municipal Board in its jurisdiction. And now we have the complexity in the state of Meghalaya, where we have the urban areas and then we have the rural area, we have the jurisdiction under the Urban Affairs, and then we have the jurisdiction under the District Council and the Dorwa Shillong. So it's more complex, you see. So that's where the collaborative initiative is a must. Without that, nothing can happen. And waste management cannot be solved until and unless it is a community-led, community-driven initiative for which the community has to be empowered, infrastructure has to be put in place, and hence this battle that we are fighting against the issue of waste management in the state of Meghalaya as a whole. Let's not talk only about Shillong, where it has the basic amenities and the infrastructure and the governance or the system in place. We have the Shillong Municipal Board, and we have the District Council here, and we have the Dorwa Shillongs. Think about our district headquarters in different districts of Meghalaya. There's no municipal boards. The Dorwa Shillong are incapacitated, or they don't have the infrastructure, or they don't have the resources in order to handle waste management. They don't even have a landfill. So how difficult this is going to be all the more. So hence, I believe that they play a very important role. What we need is actually to provide them the much needed infrastructure, resources, etc., etc.
So Manik, please do share some of the key environment projects you have been involved in.
The fact that social media has been such a great platform for the awareness, that people have been reaching out to me, giving a call out for help, asking me to come over to the localities, as far as Jawai, for that matter, as far as Sorankam, going down to Nongpo, and all these places. So this, I would say that it is not something that I've taken on a project mode, but rather I would say that this is basically a people's call for help that I went to raise their concerns and to be able to bring that much needed transformation.
So what changes in policy you want to see or you believe are necessary to protect the environment?
That is the most important aspect. Thankfully, in the newspaper, if you have seen, in the 2nd of September 2024, the Deputy Chief Minister of Meghalaya, Baprasthon Thinsan, categorically mentioned that there is a need for policy change. He does realize the very fact that if you want to address climate change issues, we need to change the policy that we have with regards to climate change or the issues on environment in the state of Meghalaya pertaining to the ecosystem that we have. We have tourism here, we have mining issues here, we have deforestation as also a concern, we also have waste management, which is primarily the major concern here. So if we want to address all of this, it has to be at the policy level, because it is not something that we just need to go and collect garbage. It is also to be able to understand what kind of garbage, whether that garbage at the end of the day has any value or not in terms of wealth or resources. And to be able to also understand the complexity of what kind of changes we need in terms of mining policy, as we know that coal mining has been banned and now scientific mining is something that has been planned. At the end of the day, all of this can only be put in place in an eco-friendly manner, policy which is so nature-centric, keeping in mind that nature is what we have best that has been bestowed upon us. Then the policy has to be according to that. We cannot bank on of having a so-called solid and liquid waste management policy dating way back to 2016, when we have actually moved ahead. And now in this day and age, when the policy in the making also has to be according to the changes that we are living in, be it lifestyle, be it consumption, production process, be it the way the state is developing, development and policy making has to go in tandem so that we can have an overall sustainable growth and development of the state. So that's a very important aspect.
As I call you a person from entertainment to environment, and I've also mentioned in the profile that your love story has been featured in the web series. So we would like to hear a bit about it.
This is a breather, I think, for the listeners out there. This came as a blessing in disguise. As a matter of fact, something manifested by my wife and I when we were in love. And we said that ours is a great love story because we are two rival station RJs who fell in love with each other, and then we went through the ups and downs of life and then eventually got married. But the most interesting part of the story is that we got to meet each other through a listener, a common listener who is actually a visually impaired person. And she was the one who would listen to me, listen to her, and could find that connect between the two of us. And when she came down to meet us, she actually got us to meet each other. And we became first from rivals to friends. And then we went on to eventually fall in love with one another and then get married, of course, and have a son. But apart from that, we thought that the film would never be made. But then out of the blue, just through a Facebook post, we got connected with India Love Project, and then from India Love Project it went on to Dramatics, and then amidst thousands of stories, they had to chisel down to a couple of stories. It was a call of the directors to make a call on. So Vivek Soni, the art director, he happened to he found that person to connect with our story, and then here we are. Karan Johar actually producing it. So the Bollywood dream also came true when we landed in Mumbai for the official launch. It was crazy at Yash Raj Studios to be walking in and to be thinking that, okay, here we are, Bollywood. But yeah, it was a lovely experience to be sharing a very difficult side. Why I am using the word difficult here, because that's when you will watch it, you'll realize what is the difficult part of it. But it is something that we had joy of being able to share it with everyone. At the same time, to be able to make us into better individuals. It is still something that gives me goosebumps and something that's so memorable and close to our heart.
Congratulations to both of you, and I'm sure our listeners are going to watch the series.
Yeah, they can. I don't know if I can do compliments here. You can watch it on Prime Videos, on Amazon Prime. Just check out for Love Storia. There are 6 wonderful stories from across the country, and one from the Northeast is ours. It's totally a story about young people falling in love, rival station RJs, and eventually starting a family. And then, of course, coming to the most serious part of it all is that love is not about when it's all lovey-dovey. It's more about what's after marriage. Love is actually after marriage, when it opens your eyes and then you see the reality of life and you go through the ups and downs of life and the challenges that you face. And if you stick by each other by then and not call it over and done because of differences that you have, because of the issues that you might have, because of individual conflicts that you might have, that's when love actually blooms. So I say this is going to be something that will make people look at love from a different perspective altogether.
I'm sure our listeners are eagerly going to watch it. So coming back to environment, entertainment again, environment. Tell us about your Umiam Lake cleaning campaign.
Umiam is very dear to us. It is what welcomes everyone, the whole world to Shillong. It is the gateway to Shillong. And what we have lately seen, and as a matter of fact for the last 52 years and counting of course, that Umiam has been facing the brunt of what we people in Shillong, for the matter, primarily because of the Wamkra and Umshipit River that is flowing all the way down to Umiam and the adjoining villages and the nearby ones. So all of this junk that we are dumping into the river, everything else, lands up at Umiam. And so if you go to Maudun, sadly that place is not a river part of the Umiam. It's actually the death threat to Umiam. And Umiam is facing that very threat because of the amount of waste that has been dumped there. This campaign was initiated way back in 2010. But lately what has happened is that the government has come up with the Smart Village project, under which the villages adjoining the Umiam have come together, and then they have collaborated with companies from outside who have brought along various technologies. And so this cleanup initiative at a very pilot project mode has started. It's called the Umiam Waste Cleanup Project, and it is absolutely a sigh of relief for us because we have been anticipating this and seeking that the government would take a serious note and take a serious initiative towards cleaning it up. But at what scale? How it can be done? But now do we realize that it's almost next to impossible to do it. So the kind of infrastructure that we'll need to clean it up, we're talking about something that's of a mammoth task. But at least this humble beginning has given us hope that all is not done with Umiam. Hopefully, in the years to come, we'll put in more resources in terms of putting a really honest effort to clean up the Umiam. And it's doable. It's not that it's not doable, but it's not going to be easy. And more importantly, how each and every one of us, the citizens of Shillong and the adjoining areas, how we need to realize at the end of the day is that how much we are responsible towards what the plight of the Umiam is. It all looks beautiful on the front, but somebody needs to go to Maudun, go see it during the rainy season, and then go and see it during the dry spell. It is a deathbed of plastic waste that you can see. I've recently uploaded a video on my social media handle. Anyone who would like to see can check it out on Madboy, Nikki J, or Galia My Pride. It's on Facebook and Instagram. You will actually get to see for yourself is what actually have we done to the Umiam Lake. So this project, definitely it is a bit of hope, but fingers crossed, we hope against hope, things will change.
So when you speak about individual awareness, do you think people are not aware of the impact caused by the actions which is harming the environment, or they are ignorant?
They are very much aware. I'm sure it is in our culture. See, talk about the Khasi, Jaintias, Garos. It is imbibed in our culture. So are the other tribes as well, or the other castes as well, or for that matter, something which we are living in our homes. I'm sure each and every one of us have learned since childhood to keep our home clean. But that teaching that we have learned practically has no implementation when it comes to as we move out of our homes. One walking down the street won't mind littering. One won't mind cleaning up waste from its own household, but going and dumping it anywhere and everywhere. I would say this is absolutely a lack of consciousness. Understanding is there, but your conscience is not hitting you to say that, no, this is a wrong act. If you see crime against women or all of that is happening, aren't we aware about it? We are all aware about it, but why is it still happening? For the very fact that the conscience. My initiatives has been always to raise that consciousness of the people at an individual level, to be able to hit that person where it hurts the most, in their heart. Once that happens, one definitely will have change of mindset and attitude and outlook towards it. But as long as it does not impact one personally, I feel that till then we consider it as other person's business, There has to be a personal attention to it or intention towards contributing in protecting the environment. Else, we'll have to use the yardstick of making sure that these people are penalized hard to make them understand
waste itself is staging a threat to the society, and you also spoke about the sense of responsibility. So how do you overcome it?
First and foremost, there is nothing called waste. What went wrong is when we called the trash or the garbage that is there, we started giving it a tag called waste. It is not so. In the current context that we understand that none of it is waste. It's all part of something that could be either recycled, resold, it could be reused in different form. Be it manure, recycling of plastic waste. If you see the scrap business that has been going on now for ages, that is a fine example of where it all went wrong. Once we have a better understanding that waste is actually a resource and we have much needed resources to be able to segregate, reuse, recycle them, this problem is much easier to be solved. And so long as we are having this kind of a mentality where we want to get rid of it from our homes and then just dump it on the dump truck, this problem is not going to solve, because at the end of the day it will be left only for the Shillong Municipal Board to go and segregate and recycle or resell whatever waste that is there, which is sellable. But apart from that, if this is done at a community level, this problem can be solved. And also at the same time, it is also a source of livelihood for a lot many families. If it is done at a community level, it will bring employment for a lot many young people out there, and also at the same time to be able to put an end to the whole behavioral pattern that we have, that we need to just collect and we need to just throw. When we'll have a better understanding of what needs not to be thrown, we'll see we have already reduced a lot of waste. Hence, that understanding is much needed thing. If each individual takes this responsibility at an individual level, we don't need to look up to the NGOs, we don't need to look up to me or anyone for that matter. But that is what the change is, what we're looking forward to.
We would like to know where your efforts have significantly changed.
If I have to judge myself and to say whether my efforts have paid off, I will honestly say no. Why? Because I will only be able to say my efforts have paid off when in each locality I will find one more Nick, be it a girl or a boy. Till date, I have found only few. The day I would see another Nick, be it in Maulai, be it in Malki, be it in Modanting, be it in Chalupara, be it any locality, Jayao, there's another Nick, be it a boy or a girl, who's taking up the issues with regards to their own locality. That is the change that I'm looking forward to. Otherwise, I think I have got a long way to struggle with till my last breath.
So listeners, we have come to the end of today's program, but before we sign off, what message do you have for us?
We don't have to do great things. We have to do small things in great way. This message goes out to actually an individual right now who's listening to us, not to the NGO or to anyone else. They have got bigger things or bigger role to play. But for every individual who's listening to me, your humble effort of not to spit from your car, your humble effort of not to litter from your car, your humble effort of teaching your child not to litter, your humble effort of trying to make sure you segregate your waste at home and to be able to dispose of in a proper manner, and to make sure that at the end of the day, as much as you love keeping your house clean, your compound clean, you also take an effort to come out and to just contribute towards your locality or the village that you live in. Problem is solved. Whichever public place that you go through, and you make sure that you don't litter, you make sure you put an effort, a humble effort. You go out with your family to the spot, or you join together as a family to bring back your trash. Just going for a picnic, bring back your trash. Simple acts like that can bring a great change. It has to begin first with me, with you, with us together. In the voice of Bamanik, it is only when the you and the you and the you and the you and the me and the us come together with the body and the mind and the soul and the spirit for the love of the modern nation, then only we can be the change to bring the change that we want to see. Hey Kapla.
So thank you so much for such a lovely message. Not only the message, but thank you for sparing your valuable time and educating the people and spreading out individual awareness. And so the individual awareness, it replicates the work that you have been carrying out. I wish you all the very best for your work that you have taken up, the projects that you have taken up. And signing off for today, your host, Roshni Subba, will meet in our next session of Know Your Environment. Thank you.
Well, listeners, with that, we've come to the end of our program, Know Your Environment. You, me, and us can bring the change in Mother Nature. In conversation with Nicholas J. Karnami, also known as Ba Manik, an environmental activist, former radio jockey, motivational speaker, and social media influencer. Talking to him was Roshni Subha. This was produced by Lucy Mary Malnyang and assisted by Natalie F. Nongrum. This came to you from the Northeastern Service of Akashvani, broadcasting from Shillong on FM 100.1 MHz and on EIR Northeast DTH.